Wait, 3, 2... Okay. Hi, I'm Megan, and welcome to the Intermish, the show where it's literally the length of an NHL intermission, where we discuss the NHL, teams, memes, trades, picks, and honestly, I think Seth Jarvis is speaking from an experience here.
Because ducks are mean. Ducks are really mean. Canada Goose, that thing would actually probably kill you.
What would be your strat?
Okay, going. Right? Yeah. Great question. Let's just go with one.
Every year, I feel like the playoffs come earlier and earlier and earlier, and I just... Anyway, the bracket, I'm making a bracket. The dog's making a bracket. I'll put the bracket results, like... I'll put, like, I'll make a thing. It'll be in the week. You'll see. It'll be Sunday, maybe Easter. Also, happy Good Friday, if you observe. It's a Good Friday, because today, we are literally talking about... I feel like after last night and after John Keats retiring, I'm not crying, you are. I feel like it's only well-deserved that I do the drunk history of the team that I have grown to love and grown up loving, the Detroit Red Wings. And it will probably be the most in-depth due to the fact that I was raised with a lot of this lore and I was taught a lot of this lore. So, like, yeah. But in here, you know the drill. You know the one. Tito's, please sponsor me. Anyway, this one's for you, Keats. Hello. So, this is the drunk history of the Detroit Red Wings. In the beginning, God or whoever you believe created the heavens and the earth, and then the Detroit Red Wings. To preface this, my father is from Detroit, although I may hang my hat in Tennessee. Detroit is a place that I have deeply romanticized my entire life through everything. As a child, I wanted so badly to go to Michigan, and I wanted so badly to, go to Lions games and Tigers games and all that, which, by the way, go Tigers. But in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, and then the Detroit Red Wings. I'm drunk as shit. So on April 18th, which today is our birthday. Oh my God. Today, April 18th, 1926, the NHL was having a meeting because they were thinking of expanding. And there were 5 applicants, like 1 from Detroit, 3 from Chicago, and then like 1 from Cleveland. Oh, I shouldn't do that. I'll probably puke. And so, like, the Western Canadian Hockey League was folding, and they were like, yeah, let's give the little team a thing. On the condition that they have a stadium, though. But they were originally the Victorian Cougars, but then they ended up being the Detroit Cougars. There was no stadium. However, the year after their first, ever, season, they then had the Detroit Olympia Stadium, which was the stadium up until 1979. Hang on. I have to burp. There we go. Jack Adams of Jack Adams Trophy was basically like our coach, our GM at the time, and which led us to our first cup in 1929, which, I mean, let's be real. 3 years and then our first cup, come on. The Detroit Red Wings are also the most decorated American franchise in the NHL. And no one wants to really, acknowledge that, but whatever. Okay. In 1930, we were the Detroit Falcons. However, it was James E. Norris of Norris Trophy fame who was like, let's give them the Red Wings. He created our logo that we still use today. He wanted the team to represent the Motor City that Detroit was, being the automobile hub of America that we were at the time. And he wanted that to really be represented in, in the teams. He wanted that. And then in 1935, 1936, we won a cup. And the only reason we won that cup is because in Game 7, Mud Brunto, a rookie, he scored in like game 7, and everyone was like, oh my god, this kid's name is Mud. And it's like there's a song like, my name is Mud. I'm pretty sure that's how he introduced himself. My name is Mud. Anyway, they beat the Rangers for a second cup a year later. And then there is our original 6 era. We are a part of the original 6. It's us, Montreal, Toronto, Boston, Blackhawks, and the Rangers. Yeah, you didn't think I could do that, Drunk, could you? I can. Also, if you haven't noticed, I look a little pale, but like in reality, I went out and I tanned earlier because I've been waiting for the sun all winter, and it's just, you know, why not? So anyway, in our original 6 era, we were sliving. We won our 3rd cup by sweeping Boston. And we were doing really, really well, but then God once again created in his own image, Gordie Howe. And you're like, Megan, who's Gordie Howe? And I'm going to tell you right now, Gordie Howe was Mr. Hockey. Gordie Howe was the end-all be-all. Gordie Howe signed his contract with the Red Wings, and his bonus was a Letterman jacket, a literal Letterman jacket. Like, my father told me this. That was all he signed for, was a Letterman jacket. And he went on to become one of the best known players, one of the most iconic, and like one of the best players in the league, period, through that. And he was paired, his first season he didn't win a cup and we didn't go to the playoffs, but he was paired later with Sid Abel and Ted Lindsay, also iconic like players of the time. And then in 1966, Ted Lindsay skated, like, we won the Stanley Cup. And remember, if you look back in the drunk history of the Stanley Cup, Ted Lindsay is the one who started the whole captain taking the cup above his head and being like he started this. Like, he started this whole tradition of that. Like, he started that whole tradition. Like, you're telling me that the Detroit Red Wings haven't made an impact in hockey? Okay, watch your captain skate around with the, like, Stanley Cup and then tell me, like, whatever. I'm very drunk and I am really pissed at a boy, but it doesn't matter. Anyway, so basically at the time, James Norris, he was in charge. He then retired and then he died. And he left the baddest bitch in this club to be the owner of the team. His daughter Marguerite. She is the only woman to ever head an NHL franchise as of now. Like Wikipedia, there are no other women at this time that have headed an NHL team. She is engraved on the Stanley Cup. And Conn Smythe was a sexist piece of shit. He demeaned her. He called her dearie. He did everything in his power to make her feel less than. And her name is on that Stanley Cup. Like, he's probably rolling in his grave that, you know, Feminine Nomenon by Chappell Roan is the song. And, like, what we really need is that, like, honestly, it hurt my heart reading that, because under her leadership, the team thrived. Like, when it was announced that she had been, you know, left this team in her father's dying wish, it was fashion reporters, sports reporters, news reporters. Everyone was there for her. Like, she was the baddest bitch in the club. And under her, the team thrived. The arena was freshly painted. It was still, at the time of the Detroit Olympia, it was freshly painted. She put a wire, like, cage around the arena, or around the ice, so that way pucks wouldn't hit people. She made it more, like, feminine friendly, so that way women could come and watch hockey with their husbands and be like, oh, I love this too. Like, she was a trendsetter. But then her stupid brother decided to ruin it all. But she made the arena cleaner. She did the riot screen. She saw 2 back-to-back Stanley Cups. And Gordie Howe, when he wrote his book, he literally called her smart and capable. Literally, like, he'd said that under, like, her, everyone thought she was so smart and so capable of heading this team and being in charge of everything. She also hated Jack Adams, like, passionately, but she kept it profesh. She kept it real profesh because, like I said, she was the baddest bitch in this club. Period. After her brother took over, it wasn't really, how I say, the best, which led to the 1967-1982 Dead Wings period, where it wasn't the best. However, we did get a absolute gem of a human being that I love dearly, and I hope I get to interview him and Ken one day. Mickey Redmond, that's right. So Mickey Redmond came to us in 1972. Let me check. I was right. It was 1972, and Mickey Redmond had a 50-goal season. He was probably one of the best standouts that we had at the time. And there are so many, he is now a commentator with Ken Danielson, which I've read this book. I know every team has one of these, but I read this one and I sobbed openly at the Ford written by Mickey Redmond, and I sobbed about Jamie Danielson, and I'm going to donate, I'll put it here, donate some money. Please, if you have the time and the money, please check out the Jamie Danielson Foundation. But Mickey Redmond, who I'm going to segue over here, 50-goal season, he is a Detroit staple. And the one thing about Detroit is we are a what, as my friend Riley says, family. When you're here, you're family. And if you've ever seen that SNL skit with Rachel Dratch. But, like, Mickey is very famous for his Mickeyisms. He has so many phrases, to which I will quote them now. They're giving the goaltender a sunburn on the back of his neck. After a spectacular Sergei Fedorov, we will get to him later, goal coast to coast like buttered toast on Patrick Kane. What a set of hands you'd like to have on your stick every day. Jimmy Howard said no like a sponge. Couldn't hit a bull on the butt end with a banjo. On Pavel Datsyuk, more moves than a monkey on a high wire in a toolbox most players would only dream about. When a defenseman is badly beaten, his jockstrap is hanging somewhere out there on Woodward Avenue. And then finally, bingo, bango, bongo. And honestly, I feel robbed personally by national broadcasts because, okay, you have to understand something. In the 2000s, when I watched hockey with my dad, it had to be it was only the national broadcast. And I didn't get Mickey and Ken, and now that I have them, I'm just, like, so grateful. And even my mom is, like, she loves watching it and listening to them because my dad loves, like, listening to them. My dad is the reason I'm a Detroit sports fan and so loyal. But, like, anyway. They then, in 1979 to 1980, they said, we're going to the Joe, bitch. They went to the Joe. They were moving on up to the east side, like the Jeffersons. Let me burp. They were then also bought by Mike Ilitch, who is the owner of Little Caesars Pizza, who, if you were not aware, paid Rosa Parks rent after finding out she was robbed and she had to move to a nicer apartment. He paid her rent. So snaps and claps for Mike Ilitch for that. A real ally. But, like, the move to the Joe, from what I can only understand, was because I never got to go to the Joe. I never got to go to the Palace, which Malice at the Palace. I almost got to go to Hannah Montana at the Palace, which is disappointing. But anyway, I did get to go to Hannah Montana with special guest star Miley Cyrus at the Knoxville Coliseum. But oh well. Anyway, so then we got another Gordie Howe, essentially. Like, we got we ate him up. Steve Yzerman. Yzerman. I'm naming my next girl dog. Like, it's gonna be a golden retriever. She's gonna be a girl. Her name's gonna be Yzerman. Anyway, a little boy from Cranbrook, British Columbia. And from the 1985-1986 era, he had literally, in like 87, Yzerman took over. He was put in a line with him, Klima, Oates, Gallant, and Vietich. They then made the playoffs after like years of like not making it. But then in 88, we clinched our first division title in however many years. And in 89, they were like, everyone's they're gonna trade Steve. They're gonna trade Steve. You hear about it? They're gonna trade Steve. And they did not. They didn't trade Steve. However, they did make some people defect from their mother Russia. So, if you aren't aware of this, the Detroit Red Wings at a time had an entire line called the Russian Five, made up of 5 Russian players. So amazing, in fact, that, like, even when they addressed it to Steve Yzerman and, like, they brought up, like, Sergei Fedorov, who, by the way, would. Look, I know I'm trying to be journalistic and integrity and I'm drunk and shit, but, like, what a babe. Oh my god, I was born way too late in life. But, like, along with Brandon Shanahan and all the other great players, there were the Russian Five. It was Fedorov, and Stevie had already played Sergei in the World Cup of hockey. And while on the exercise bike, they were like, hey, Steve, how do you feel about, like, Sergei Fedorov? He goes, he's better than me. And that was saying a lot. So somehow they got him to defect from Mother Russia, because once again, this was the 80s. This was the 80s, 90s, and now. No, this was a time where Russia was very, like, frowned up. Like, Russia was not, it was still the former Soviet Union. And so he defected from Russia after, I think, a tournament, and he flew over to Detroit. They had to, like, somehow, you know, convince him, hey, you want to come to Detroit? And he was like, duh. And then there was him, Konstantinov, Sloval, and Kozlov. And literally, one of them was, I forget who it was, but the scout at the time had said, I had just watched the best 15-year-old play hockey ever, and I saw Gretzky at 15. Like, do you know how good you have to be for a guy to be like, you are the best 15-year-old ever, and I've seen Gretzky play? Like, you have to be a certain level of good for that to occur. And with them, we won several Stanley Cups. With the Russian Five, we ran it back to back to back. We hit a three-peat in terms of division championships, in terms of President's trophies. We had 2 back-to-backs. With the cups, quite literally, we had 2 in a row. And I mean, honestly, like, I was born in 97, or not 97, 96, and I think they lost that because I was born, because the atmosphere was like, whoa. Anyway, with the Russian Five. And then we changed arenas, and we were at the Joe Louis Arena. And for those of you who are unaware of the Joe Louis Arena, there was an incident called Fight Night at the Joe, in which after, like, Lemieux took a stab at, so, like, Fight Night at the Joe is basically like this. In Game 6 of the 96 Western Conference Final, Claude Lemieux took a literal dirty-ass hit to Draper. And Darren McCarty, pictured here. Hi, Icon. Quite literally didn't take kindly to that. And DK, being one of the best enforcers in the league at the time, said, hell no. And so, basically, Lemieux's hit in Game 6 sent him out of the game into the hospital with a broken jaw, shattered cheek, orbital bone, which required reconstructive fucking surgery. And involving his jaw being wired shut and numerous stitches. The Avalanche would then upset us in 6 games, winning the Stanley Cup. After the traditional handshake that took former Red Wings winger Dino Cicerelli said of Lemieux, I can't believe I shook that guy's hand. Like, it was very serious, and you're like, it's not that serious. No, it is. It is. It is. So then, after the next regular season, Darren McCarty said, I'm going to beat his ass. And he did. He beat that ass, baby. I'm telling you what.
Igor Larionov. And it isn't often that we see Igor Larionov go, but he did. And now Darren McCarty Gets his shots in at Claude Lemieux. And look who came.
But he built to ass is what happened. And then, I mean, this was also during that time when Scotty Bowman, who we'll talk about that fucking later, was our coach. And then Fight Night at the Joe happened. And Darren McCarty basically, there was a grind line at the time. It was literally Chris Draper, Joe Conquer, and Kirk Malby. It was the late 90s. They were literally for speed face-offs. And hang on, I have to... Anyway, they were the grind line. And if you're in a line... Remember in my How Hockey Works video? You're in a line with somebody, you're like besties. But anyway... After that, the 90s, the Wings were iconic. I mean, literally iconic. We were already the most established, like, Stanley Cup winner franchise. On top of that, here's where my memory of the Red Wings comes in. Winning 2 cups in the early 2000s, on top of, you know, everything in between, I really didn't get to watch hockey that much, other than when it was on the national broadcast. And 2001, I remember watching that one, but the one I truly, truly remember, 2007, 2008, when we had Nicholas Lindstrom, we had Zetterberg, we had Ozzy, and I remember being at the beach with my mom's side of the family, and everyone was watching it, like all the kids, like our bedtime was 8 p.m., and I remember specifically being told that I was allowed to stay up late because the Red Wings were on, and I wanted to watch hockey with my dad, and I remember hearing in the background of the video of the broadcast, hearing Ozzy, 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 and seeing people fling raw octopi onto the ice, which everyone loves everyone loves a puss on the ice. You can't tell me different. And I remember asking my dad, like, hey, what's this about? He was like, Megan, our goalie's name is Ozzy, or his name's Chris Osgood, and he is a Detroit legend. And I remember watching them win that cup at the beach and my dad being so happy. Hang on. In 07 and 08, and then I remember 08, 09, I had already previously known about Sidney Crosby. I was in 5th grade at the time, 5th grade going into 6th. And I remember looking at Sidney Crosby and thinking, I want to go to him. And I had a crush on him, and I rooted against the Wings, and I really shouldn't have, and I regret it deeply. But then, I didn't know that would be probably the last time I would ever get to see them. And that leads us now to where we are now. Now, we are a team that is in a very long, dry playoff streak of not making the playoffs since 2015, 2000, whatever. And it saddens me deeply and dearly that, you know, I haven't gotten to hear or see them, in the playoffs. But with the talent that we have with Lucas Raymond, Moritz Seider, Dylan Larkin, God love him. If I see one more article saying we should trade our captain, I'm going to lose my mind. The Detroit Red Wings, we are, like I have said always, hockey is a marathon, not a sprint. A rebuild does not happen in a day. Like, you can't blink and all of a sudden it's Rome. I think we are a playoff contenderable, team. I think we are truly where we need to be. I just think we have to get rid of some people, like Justin Hull. I don't think Jonathan Berggren is one of them. I think that we need to find people who can support our offensive people but also play defense. Because, currently we have Patrick Kane, who is supposedly one of the best American players. Hang on. Sorry, my mom called. But we have the talent, we have the youth, we have the on-ice veteran leadership, and, this isn't the end-all be-all for us. Where we are, our current situation is not our final destination, and I think this team is more than capable of quite literally winning a Stanley Cup. And I want Lucas Raymond to be there. I want it to be Moritz Seider. I want it to be Dylan Larkin. I want everyone there that matters. And we fired Lalonde way too late, in my opinion. It should have been after the get-go. It should have been at the get-go. We got rid of him. And I like where Todd has us now. I like Todd. I believe in the Todd Father. I believe in the Todd Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen. And I wish the people who loved us, I wished our fans could really understand that and weren't so negative about everything in the world. Like, genuinely, I've never met a whinier fan base other than Toronto and Boston than I have the Detroit Red Wings. Like, guys, like, I wasn't raised this way. I was raised to believe and have faith. And I believe Steve Yzerman. I believe in the Yzer plan. I do. You can call me stupid. You can call me an idiot. But I truly believe in Steve Yzerman. I honestly think that, like, if you watch Tampa Bay, all of those players, half of those players are players that Steve Yzerman had selected for Tampa Bay. And look at them now. It takes time. No one seems to understand this. We are such an impatient fan base. But I love us dearly and deeply. And I couldn't imagine my life being a different fan of a different team. I was a Pins fan for a little bit because of Sydney. But I have returned to my roots. Yeah. So thank you so much for watching this. Please follow me on Twitter and subscribe and like and stuff and comment. And I don't know. Thank you for 100 people subscribing. I love you dearly. Oh God, my feet were there. The dogs were out. Anyway, thank you so much. I will have the bracket video of my dog and me selecting a bracket out on Sunday. I love you guys. And yeah, go Red Wings.